Hey Marijn,
Hey dude, how are you?
great. It's time to blame the end user again.
Exactly. And for today, for this episode, I've got a little story, and it's a story of life and how life drives us, and how work drives us, and where we're going, and
Yeah,
something like that. So this episode is not gonna be around technology. This is not gonna be about SharePoint or about Teams or about user adoption. This is just some kind of brain fart that I've got in my head.
it's about people today.
It's about people, exactly. And it's about how we have been lied to for thousands of years.
Exactly. Well, how you say facts don't sell, stories do,
Exactly.
and that's the thing. So, are you believing the common narrative or not? So let's see what you have in stores for us
Exactly.
today, Marijn.
Yeah. So let me go um, into sharing mode. Let me see. How does that look?
Yes, here we are. The promise of happiness.
The promise
Okay.
of happiness. So
Yeah.
we were promised happiness, and we don't have it. Or I'm not that happy at the
No,
moment. So
no.
we'll see. No, I'm good. I mean, I'm good, but
Come on, dude.
I
You're
mean,
doing great.
let's see. True. So the promise of happiness.
Mhm.
So let's start our story thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, when we were just hunters, foragers, and what would we do all day? So people think that this was a terrible lifestyle for people, that this was a terrible way to live. Now,
Yeah.
modern research shows that these people, to hunt for their food and to grab all the food that they needed to eat, they would only have around 2 or 3 hours of work every day.
Ah,
And for the rest of the day, they
chill
did
around.
chill,
Mhm.
exactly, go swim, play in the
Yeah,
snow, play with their children, I don't
exactly.
know, go horse riding,
Yeah.
whatever.
Eat
So
magic mushrooms, things like that.
exactly. The revere pageant gods, things like that.
Exactly.
So they,
Yeah.
they would just do whatever they wanted for the rest of the day.
So
Yeah.
2 hours of work every day,
So yeah, just to
happily
get the
ever after.
food. I mean, they still
Mhm.
had to work on their huts every day, a little bit maybe, and then maybe I don't know what they did all day, but they weren't busy all day long to gather food. And of course there were some months or weeks where the food was a little bit more scarce, but research shows that this was not a bad time to live.
Yeah.
So there was not big famine or whatever.
Mhm.
Now, at some point, we have the Industrial Revolution, or well, even before the Industrial Revolution,
Mhm.
we decided at some point that instead of just wandering around and foraging for food, we would just stay in one place and build a farm
Mhm.
and have grain on that farm. So the problem with that is that we now have a delayed response. So if I go into the woods and I go collect berries, I come out of the woods and I've got my berries.
Yes.
So for grain, in the spring I need to put the grain in the ground, and then I have to
Mhm.
wait half a year, and then I have my grain. So
Yeah.
there's a delayed feedback that I get.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the promise that was made then was that grain was easier to build, that it would be better for us, and that we would, that everything would be better. Now, research has shown that we're not made to eat grain. History has, yes, go keto. But
exactly.
research has also shown that, oh no, not just research, but just history. I mean, farming is a lot of work. If you ask a farmer these days, it's a lot of work. They get up super early in the morning. They do 100,000 things. And then in the evening, they just get something, hopefully.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think there was once an article in the Finnish newspaper exactly about this. And they say that if you would, of course, it all depends a bit on the size of the farm and what you do and which type of farming and so on. If you own land, you're always better off. But let's say a normal milk farmer with a medium-sized farm with, I don't know, 50 cows or something like that, or 30 cows. And with the amount of work they do and what they earn is that they get something like €5 an hour.
Exactly. That's crazy.
So think about it.
Yes.
Would you lift the pen for that money?
Exactly. But we're now talking about thousands of years ago when the first farms were there. So there the idea was that if we just grow the grain and just stay here, and then we've got some cows and some pigs and some chickens and stuff like that, our life would be better. But what we now see is that we have to work from early in the morning to late in the evening and hope that this year's grain crop will not go bad.
Yeah.
Because if the yearly crop goes bad, then we're fucked, and then we can't do anything. So we can't eat next year. So that's a big problem. And now we're working way longer than we were before. So at some point,
my neighbors cannot eat who are hunters or stonemasons or carpenters or whatever.
Exactly. So the whole village would just die down because crops come bad. Now, a few hundred years ago, we've got industrial revolution. So we've got a way to use steam-powered engines to automate a bunch of things. And the idea was, if we do that, we can just chill all day long because we can automate everything. We look at Henry Ford, who would create the first conveyor belt. So productivity would go up 100-fold. So we don't have to build these things by hand anymore, but we can all automate that, and everything will go smoother, prices would go down, and we will all be happy.
Yeah, we would go back to 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened is that we had child labor. We had children from 6 years old to work those machines. We've got people working 7 days a week from the morning till the evening.
Yeah.
So this didn't get us what we wanted.
Yeah.
And then if we look at, let's say, around 1950 or let's say mid-century, mid-20th century, we would have the default, or maybe even 1900, like the default where the husband goes to work, where the wife takes care of the elderly, takes care of the children, takes care of the house, and the man works like 40-hour job, 9 to 5, and he comes back. So that was there's this rule saying 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest.
Yeah.
So you would think that things would be kind of stable then. So
yeah, I mean, in theory, this doesn't sound bad, 8 hours work, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of recreation.
Yes, exactly. And then we got the suffragettes, and they were saying women need more rights. And of course, absolutely, yes. So women have the same rights as men, exactly. But women also need to be, if women want to be independent, they also need to be able to go to work, which is true. I mean, absolutely. So what we now see is that women are also going to work, become independent of the paycheck of the husband, and you now see that they're both going to work, both partners, but who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to take care of the house? Who's going to take care of the elderly? So what you now see is that both partners are now working 40-hour jobs. And we put the kids in daycare. We put the elderly, the grandma and grandpa, we put them in old people's house. We need to employ a cleaner to keep our house clean. We need to employ a gardener to get our house in order. We need to use Uber Eats to get food because we don't want to cook all after we came home after a day. So that 1950s, when the wife was staying at home, she would cook. So she had time to cook. And you would, the man would come home and there was food on the table because that was the wife's job.
That was the deal. Yeah,
exactly.
That was the deal.
Exactly. But now we're both working 40-hour a week jobs. And when we come home, we don't want to cook anymore. We just want to have something easy on the table. So we need to get our Uber Eats, and we need to have a clean house. We need to have a house cleaner. We need to have a nice garden. So we need to have a gardener. We now need to pay for 2 cars because we both want to drive to work. So we're now working.
And we don't have the money to pay them in cash, so you need to kind of pay them in part. Yeah.
Yes, but we're now working to get money to pay for the car that drives us to work.
Yes.
So it's kind of crazy.
Also, another example is that, for instance, Central Europe, daycare is extremely expensive. So mostly it's like this, that when the woman goes to work, she pays for the daycare fees. Let's say 80% of her salary goes pay for the daycare fee.
Yes. So the thing is, we now need to have 2 incomes. We need to have those 2 paychecks because we can't pay all these services. We can't pay the cleaner. We can't pay the pizza that we order out. We can't have the gardener. We can't have the people in the daycare homes. How
did George Carlin said it? Our output is high, but our income is low. You know, in his brilliant Modern Man, the Modern Man piece from George Carlin.
Yeah, exactly. Now we do get a lot of money in, but we need to pay for a lot of things that we wouldn't have to pay for if we wouldn't go to work.
Yeah.
So if one of the partners would stay home and take care of all those things, then you wouldn't have to pay for someone else to do those things. So, and as you said before our meeting, like we buy the things
we don't need.
The
money.
Sorry, my daughter just tripped and
is she okay?
fell on her face. Yeah, she's okay. So we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress the people we don't like. So we need to have that latest iPhone, for example.
Yeah, and there we come back again to the stories we have been told and people buying into those.
Exactly. So now,
so how can we be more productive all the time, but have less time or have less money? So
exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the question. That's the question. So yes. So we want to be happy. We don't want to work all day, although we are wired to do something. We are wired to work. We're not wired to sit at home in front of the television all day. We're not wired that way. No. We are wired to work. But why are we, thousands of years ago, why are we then just doing a few hours of work every day and now stressed out of our minds doing 60-hour work, both of the partners, just to pay for all the stuff that we have around and all the services that we need? And I don't think that's progress. This is not progress. Now I'm working super hard to pay for all kinds of services.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't have to pay for if I wasn't working that hard or that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's the common narrative, you know.
Yes.
We all follow in this hamster wheel, and and we are told this is the way, right?
Exactly. This is the way. Yes.
Yeah.
You need to have that latest iPhone. You need to have that 50-inch flat screen OLED television on your wall, or you will not be happy.
Or you're no one, or you're nobody.
Exactly. So yeah,
it's like,
so that's
like
weird.
It's like Tyrion Lannister said, what I watched on my 70-inch Sony screen, said that stories are the most powerful thing in the world.
They are.
And,
it's true.
And that's this. You know, it's the things we talk to ourselves. We get told that when you hear it long enough, you start to believe it.
Yes, exactly. And
but
now,
where are we heading with your story?
Well, where are we now? And this is actually how I came to this story. Is I was reading an article in the Harvard Business Review around 9 trends that shape the work in 2021. And one of the 9 trends was that mental health support from your organization is now the new normal.
Yeah.
And I was reading that and I was thinking, so now the organization is looking out for my mental well-being.
Yeah. So that the first thought you have is like, hey, awesome, right?
No, the first thought I had was like, this is not right.
Oh, really?
This is not right.
I had the first thought saying, hey, wow, this is cool now. Finally, they start to address this problem. But then the second thought was like you had, like, hey, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this. Okay.
Exactly. This is wrong.
Yeah. Why do we need now?
Wrong.
Why do we need now services for improvement of mental health in our workforce in 2021 when we have been told for centuries that life is getting better when we
Exactly. Life is getting better. In the future, life will be better. Yeah. When? This is the future. This is freaking 2021. This is the freaking future.
Yeah. We should have freaking flying cars, and we still don't have them. But yeah, it's
but then again, would a flying car make you more happy?
I don't know. Probably not, because I wouldn't know how to fly it. Anyway.
No. And you could say, okay, then I can skip traffic jams. Yeah, until everybody gets a flying car, and then you've got traffic jams in the sky.
Exactly.
Or then you will crash into one of those Amazon drones.
Exactly. You would have traffic jams like in Coruscant. You know?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really don't know where I'm going with this, but it's this article that I read, and I put the link here if you want to read it as well. Like this is not okay. So what they said was that Gartner showed that before the pandemic, 45% of well-being budget increases were being allocated to mental and emotional well-being programs.
Sorry, how many? How much?
45%.
45%.
45% of the well-being budget. So the first time I read this, I thought like this was 45% of the organization that was doing something. That's not true, but it's 45% of the well-being budget that we have in an organization is being allocated to mental and emotional well-being programs. Now, we see that when the pandemic hit, we got late March, 68% of organizations have at least one new wellness benefit added to their list of benefits or wellness benefits to aid employees during the pandemic. So that can go to from getting a better laptop, or getting a keyboard or an extra screen, or it could be like, for example, Headspace. You would get a Headspace license, for example, or yoga, or whatever, for virtual yoga. So all these things are something that organizations are now adding to their toolbox of things that they do to keep employees happy.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, it's great that we have such a thing for people that are in trouble. I mean,
yeah,
it's good that there's some kind of thing available, but the question is, should this come from our organizations? Should this come from my employer? Should he be the one who is now responsible for my happiness or for
mm-hmm.
my mental well-being? That is not okay. That's just not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't even be in that problem, but
True.
you know,
True.
that's a very difficult question to answer. But would be interesting
Yes.
to hear opinions on this from our viewers. For those who are watching this, what's your opinion about this?
Mm-hmm.
Again, for me, on the other hand, it's cool that there are those initiatives, and we have now tools like Microsoft Viva. It's not only Viva Las Vegas right now, it's Viva Microsoft. But
that would make me happy.
Exactly.
Trip to Las Vegas. Yes.
I know it would. So in that sense, it's good that there are those that Microsoft sees that there is a need to address these things. But it's a bit like, you know, my company makes me a broken leg, gives me a walking stick and a plaster, and saying, "Hey, look, I gave you a walking stick and a plaster. Praise me for this." So